To those of you who are listening in for the first time today, welcome. And for those of you who have joined us for one or more of our previous sessions, welcome back. Thank you all for joining us today for Partnering with Your Sorting Center, How to Optimize Plastic Waste Management. My name is Yvonne Ritchie, and I am a project coordinator here at the Green Municipal Fund. And today's webinar is our fourth in a five-part series that's taking place every Thursday from now until next week on plastic waste management solutions for Canadian municipalities. This webinar series is offered to you by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities through the Green Municipal Fund. So before I introduce today's speakers, I'd like to take just a few minutes to provide some context on the Green Municipal Fund. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities has been the national voice of municipal government since 1901, with diverse programs and services designed to support municipalities. One of these programs is, of course, the Green Municipal Fund, which was established in 2000 after an endowment by the Government of Canada. The fund has a double mission to support municipal initiatives and sustainable development through its funding, as well as to share knowledge and lessons learned through online resources and tools, training, networking opportunities, and peer learning activities. The Green Municipal Fund is available for projects in 5 different sectors, including transportation, energy performance, water performance, brownfields, and of course, waste reduction. This funding is available to all municipal governments in Canada and their partners for plans, studies, pilot projects, and capital projects. And since its inception, the Green Municipal Fund has funded more than 1,400 initiatives in over 500 communities across Canada. If you would like to know more about these initiatives, you can, of course, check out our approved projects database, which is a wealth of resources on our funded projects. It includes case studies, reports, contact information, and more. So I'd really encourage you to take a look at that link. We're sending that in the chat box now, so you're free to take a look at that as you wish. I would also encourage you to sign up for our weekly newsletter, FCM Connect, to get all the latest updates on what we have to offer in terms of webinars such as this one. And lastly, I would invite you to join us again next week on March 14th for our final webinar in the series, which will explore innovative technologies for processing plastic waste through presentations by the City of Salaberry to Valleyfield and their partnership with an organization called PyroWave. So back to today's session. Here you can see that we have a wide range of people listening in from all across Canada, as we have in our past sessions. So it's really, really great to see so many people on the line and from pretty much every province and even territory, it seems, in Canada. We also have people who are all working in different types of positions across waste management, environmental services, coordinators, managers, analysts, researchers, and more. So I think that really speaks to just the level of interest in this topic. So it's really great to see so many people connecting with us on the line today. And for interest, this is something that we included last week as well. We did a quick calculation of the greenhouse gas emissions that we save by having these presentations online, rather than having everybody fly in person to Ottawa. So based on registration numbers alone, we're estimating that we're avoiding about 78,000 kilograms of CO2, as well as about 800 kilograms of waste that would have been generated on your flight. So a big thank you to you all for joining us virtually as part of an environmental contribution. So these webinars are essentially intended to demonstrate and showcase the many ways in which plastic waste is being addressed by municipalities across Canada. Through past webinars, we've seen significant efforts globally and nationally to stem the flow of plastics leaking out of the economy and into the environment, and have now begun to focus on the specific responses that municipalities are taking to address the challenges of plastic waste management in Canada. Today's webinar will explore partnerships between municipalities and their local waste sorting centers, addressing some of the principles that lead to successful collaboration, beneficial partnerships, and of course, lower contamination rates. Joining us today to share their experiences are Janine Pillar from the City of St. John's and Dwight from Scotia Recycling. So thank you both for joining us today. I'll turn the floor over to you momentarily, but just a couple quick reminders. We'd have about 20 minutes at the end dedicated to questions. So you're welcome to send us your questions and comments throughout, and we'll go through as many of those as we can in the time allotted. If you have to step away at any point or have colleagues who are missing today's webinar, this session is being recorded as well and is being made available on the FCM YouTube page. At this time, we have published the recording for the first webinar if you are interested in finding that, so we'll send a link for that as well. And so with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Janine Pillar. Janine Pillar has been employed with the City of St. John's since 2007 as the Waste Diversion Supervisor. Prior to working with the city, she owned her own curbside recycling business, and with over 25 years of experience in the recycling sector, she offers a wealth of knowledge on the topic of waste management. And along with all the experience she has to offer, she has always had a passion for the environment. So without further ado, I will now hand things over to Janine to deliver her presentation.
Okay, thanks, Yvonne. And first of all, I'd like to thank the FCM for asking us to present today, and also to thank everyone for joining us in the webinar this morning or the afternoon. It depends on where you are, I guess. Okay, I'll just click down. So to begin with, I thought I'd provide some background information on our recycling program. So our program is fairly new. It was rolled out in 2010. And I've always had the attitude that even if you're late coming to the table, there's some positive from that, in that you can go back to the people that have been doing it for 20 to 30 years and ask them, what is it that they would like to do differently, and what would they advise if they were going to start over again? And so what the main message that came back to us, and we went across Canada and talked to all kinds of municipalities, and the main message was, you need to create a clean product. You are living on an island, and you have low population base, so in order to make sure you move your product and sell it, you would need a clean product. So that was always in the forefront for our decision making around our program. So we were advised, and we agreed with it, the material to exclude to make sure the product is clean was glass, plastic shopping bags, and styrofoam. So we chose a two-stream program, so that meant containers in one bag and fibers in another. And we also chose blue bags, and one of the positives was you could see in the bag, plus our weather wasn't conducive to having open recycling containers. So we chose the blue bags. We have a bi-weekly collection, and it's a voluntary program. So what is plastics that we accept in our program today? We do the PET number 1, HDP number 2, tubs and lids, clamshells, and blue bags. So all of these items are a separate commodity that has to be sold separately. So there's 5 different ones. We used to be able to sort clamshells with PET number 1, but that's changed. And so if you do want to move your PET number 1, clamshells cannot be included. Challenges. What are some of the challenges that we've been faced with? Well, the first one we knew that we were going to be faced with was transportation to end markets. We're on an island, and so that was another reason we had in our mind, make sure it's clean, because we need to produce decent revenue due to that extra cost that some others may not have. So when we rolled out our curbside program, we had a 10-bag garbage limit. So that made us a little nervous, because we weren't sure, would people really take in, do their recycling. And when we started for the first 2 or 3 years, it was really good. We had participation rates upwards of 74%, I believe. And then all of a sudden, participation rates started to slide down, and that was a bit of a concern to us. And we weren't eager to do a mandatory program. We preferred the carrot approach to the stick approach. And we had been doing research, and we were looking at rolling out an automated garbage collection program. So we did that this last June. We just used a third of the city, and we used a 240-liter container. And this container holds 4 garbage bags. So in offering this container, it made people have to focus in on what they could recycle, because people were finding they weren't recycling everything they could, and that increased people putting more into the recycling, plus people that weren't recycling started to pick it up. So what we saw in the end of this year was there's been a 40% increase in our recycling tonnages. And so we were pleased with that. And this year in June, we're going to implement the rest of the year of the city. And we're hoping to see similar results with the increase in recycling. So how do we support the MuRF operations? So we had designed our curbside program. And so we had to design our MuRF to meet what the curbside program was. So we built a MuRF, and so fibers were on the tipping floor. Fibers had to go in one spot, and containers in another. And then there was separate conveyor belts to take that material up to 2 different sorting facilities. So we kept it separate. We provided an eddy current and a magnet for the containers line. And our facility is built to handle 28,000 tons of recycling per year. And we also were aware of the ICI sector where there was clean cardboard and clean office paper. So we had a separate door, separate from the fibers and the container lines, so that commercial haulers could bring in their clean cardboard, just dump it on the floor, push it into the bunker, and it got baled up and it's handled quickly and out of the way. So currently, the tonnages that we're handling at the MuRF are, we bring in around 6,000 tons from the residential programs, and then there's 10,000 tons on the ICI sector program. So another tool that we felt was really important for to support our operations was to present a clean product from the curb. So how do we do that? We presented a good, strong education program for our residents, and also we make sure that our collectors fully understand our program, because they play a really major role in making sure that education, well, they're educators at the curb, because they see in the bag, and if there's errors made, they're supplied with oops stickers, and then they tick off what was incorrect and leave it on the bag, so that keeps the education process moving. We also, and again, we found the blue bags extremely beneficial. We also provided starter kits, and in the starter kits, you've got every tool anyone needs to start recycling. So there's a couple of blue bags presented, and there's calendars as well as a brochure, and on the brochure there's everything you need to know that you can recycle, and also a list of what can't be included. And we also have staff that go door to door with these starter kits. And like in the fall, we'll often do a blitz of the university areas, because we have a high number of students that move into the city of St. John's each fall. So we'll blitz the area where we know where they rent, and we'll go door to door and present the information to them. And we do find that that's a positive result from, we do see more blue recycling bags to the curb. And I'd also just like to make a comment around the blue bags, that GLAD has been extremely supportive for our program and has provided these blue bags for every starter kit at no cost to the city, so it was greatly appreciated. Next, again, how do we make sure there's a clean product? Aside from the blue bags, was, again, we would not accept glass, plastic shopping bags, or styrofoam. And glass, just a lot of people recommend it. Just do not include it. It contaminates a lot of your other material. Plastic shopping bags, it was a similar story, and both of these items increase maintenance costs. And we also found that the plastic shopping bags, we felt that if you say you're going to take plastic shopping bags, a lot of people start putting in all kinds of plastic, like saran wrap and plastic covers to cheese. And today there's all kinds of plastic bags in the market that we wouldn't recycle. So it's really clear communication that we don't take any plastic shopping bags, so it really helps keep a clean product coming. And styrofoam was recommended not to include as well. So the results from this are that we do have a very low residual rate. We float between 3% and 4% these days with our residual rates, which we feel is quite good. And again, too, we've always sent out a high quality product, so there's been we've never received any downgrading of material. So how does the partnership work? It's a contractual agreement. There's no lease. And Scotia Recycling is responsible for the maintenance of the building and the equipment. But we, the city, also share in in the maintenance, because we will pay the parts. So when Scotia has maintenance repair done, then they invoice us, and they send a copy of the supplier's invoice, as well as a reason why this repair had occurred and why it needed to be repaired. So that sort of involves both of us, and it works positively that way. They also are required to submit monthly maintenance reports, so we ensure that they're doing their daily and weekly and monthly reporting and checking and inspecting the equipment properly, and that keeps it in good working order. They also submit a daily report on the cleaning of the facility. And the city also contracts with a supplier that supplies the equipment for the sorting equipment and baler, and we always have an annual inspection of that equipment, and we find that it's positive results for both of us, for the city, because there's constant new learning, and it's also good for the contractor. So it just keeps the equipment in very good top running condition. We also provide mobile equipment, a loader, a skid steer, and forklift. Those are tools they need to run the facility properly. And the operator is paid for tonnages that come in the front door. Now, the city operates the scales. So when a hauler is bringing in recycling, we have what we refer to as blue slips, and we tick off what kind of recycling material came in. And then the hauler goes over to the MuRF and has to present this blue slip. If there's no blue slip, they have to go back to scales and get one. And then Scotia also records the hauler and what they brought in. And so these tonnages are reconciled monthly, and it makes it very clean and easy. There's no discrepancy on tonnages because the blue slips are matched to the weigh bills, so it all works quite well. There's a revenue split from the sale of the material between city and Scotia. The city receives 80% and Scotia receives 20%. So in addition to our curbside program, I just wanted to say that it isn't that we're not recycling any glass. People do have the option to recycle their wine bottles and their liquor bottles and their juice bottles, and that's through the green. They can return them to a green depot. The Multi-Material Stewardship Board set up and is responsible for the running of the deposit return program. We also carry out research, and we're looking at other ways that we could possibly recycle those pickle jars and jam jars. We do want them to get recycled, so we're in the process of researching other possible avenues for those. Plastic shopping bags is another item that, again, we don't take in our program, but people can return them to the grocery stores, and they have bins there to put the plastic shopping bags in. And there has been an increase in the number of bags that people are returning, as well as our provincial government is currently considering banning these. So, recommendations. So again, today it's all about a clean product. If you want to get good revenue and move your product, it has to be clean. So in order to get that, I would recommend the blue bags and keep the fibers separate from the containers, and good continuous education with your residents as well as your collectors, so that everyone's on the same page with that. And it really does make a difference. Sharing the cost of maintenance between the contractor as well as the city, then everybody's responsible, and as well as a split with the revenue. That's nice that everyone can get a piece of the pie. And also have your municipality. I think it's positive that the scale house is operated by the municipality, and then it just lessens any kind of conflict on tonnages and stuff like that. And also we have meetings and keep the communication open with your contract in a positive way. And so all in all, that can be, I find it mutually beneficial for both the contractor as well as the municipality. So I'll turn it back to you, Yvonne, I guess.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Janine. That was an excellent presentation. Some really, really fantastic insights into how St. John's has developed its novel program. I see that we have lots of questions coming in already, which is great. So I'm looking forward to some more discussion at the end of this. But of course, before we get to that, we do have another presentation. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Dwight Wynot. Dwight Wynot is currently the president of Scotia Recycling Limited, a title he has held since 1996. He is also the president of Scotia Recycling Newfoundland Limited and Scotia Security Shredding Limited, and is director and vice president of finance for Crown Fiber Tube Incorporated. Dwight is a graduate of St. Mary's University with a Bachelor of Commerce and graduated from the University of Western Ontario's Executive Program in 1997. He has over 30 years experience in managing building and establishing recycling programs, including forming long-term solutions and partnerships with municipal entities, designing and implementing curbside collection programs for expanded polystyrene, and developing solid waste management strategies. So Dwight, it is now over to you. You should have control.
Okay, thanks. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining in on the webinar this afternoon. Give you a little bit of a background on whoops, going the wrong way here. Apologize. A little background on Scotia Recycling. We were established back in 1976 when I guess recycling wasn't a huge priority in the world, but we're part of a vertically integrated company that operates, or at the time operated a recycled linerboard mill, and we have molded pulp facilities across Canada. So we were again created to be the sourcing agent for those two entities. Today we've expanded that. We operate 5 MuRF locations here in Atlantic Canada for different municipalities and even groups of municipalities. Some of them are municipally owned, and some of them are privately owned by ourselves, and we provide that service. We do have 4 commercial baling facilities here in Atlantic Canada that would be completely just bulk grades coming in from different waste haulers of either fibers or plastics that we bale at those facilities. And in Newfoundland, we actually operate 6 of the Green Depot beverage centers there. So we have our fingers, I guess, in a bunch of different things directly on the recycling side. Plus, we do have our own confidential shredding business too. So a few different angles to the recycling world. We do a lot of business with some of the major. Okay, I've lost control here, Yvonne. Sorry, with my cursor from going forwards and backwards. Sorry. Oops. Is there some way that I can get control of the slides back, please? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, we do a lot of work with major retailers, grocery chains, with helping them develop programs for their waste diversion and sustainability at those locations. So that's been a growing piece of our business over the years. We also market material for a lot of municipally operated MuRFs in Atlantic Canada. We have great partnerships with different folks in the area to help them move that material because again of our breadth of knowledge and exposure to different markets. If we can consolidate those products and move them, it has benefited both ourselves and the municipalities, especially on the revenue and movement side. And we have ourselves established both in numerous domestic markets along with a vast number of export locations. So again, that's who we are quickly. Jumping into St. John's and the MuRF operation there, as Janine said, there are some very unique pieces to that I just want to highlight again. It is a 2-bag system, no glass, no film, and as Janine said, no expanded polystyrene. Voluntary from the residents' perspective, and I think that does make a huge difference in the materials. And again, the city of St. John's, Janine and her staff have done a great job promoting from day one and continue to promote the program and things like quality, separation, etc. So it's a very well-run program in the city of St. John's, and some of the surrounding communities that also participate or use their MuRF plant as the host. Again, great working relationship, as Janine said, and I think that's key to the success we have there. Open lines of communications. We have regular meetings, but we also have the ability to pick the phone up and chat back and forth quite quickly. Great website, education. We run tours of the MuRFs for, for the residents. One of the other things that I think is a very positive thing also is that most of the collection is done by city trucks and city staff. And being able to get back to those collection folks quickly with issues and get them resolved has definitely been a positive. So, getting into the MuRF plant, and we're just going to focus on the container or the plastics sort line. From a staffing perspective, no different than probably a lot of other MuRFs, but I guess there's a couple little things that we do differently. One is we actually have a QA person on the tip floor. As Janine said, every load that comes in the building is QA'd as it's dumped on the floor. It gives us a great opportunity to see if there's objects that or materials that shouldn't be there. There's cross-contamination between fibers and plastics. If there's just abundant residuals in the material. Again, because we know what truck it came from, what day, what time, we can really hone back into to the neighborhood that it came from, and increase any type of education or that we need to do at that point. The second thing that we do that's a little different is, there are bag rippers on the line. However, we do put another QA person at the bag ripper to take off any, again, oversized items or residuals that we see before it actually hits the sort line. It just makes the flow of material better. It allows the sorters to do their picks properly, get the material that we want to collect off the sort line, without, again, in particular, large bulky items or, film plastics that might be in the bags too. So that's been a real plus for us. We have 2 people on the pre-sort, and then 6 positions running down the line, taking off the different plastics. And then again, as Janine said, we do have the eddy current and the cross magnet belt to take off the metals. So it does allow us to really get a great sort to meet those market requirements that we have. Some of the things that we do with our staff, I guess first and foremost, we do have a great staff, and retention actually is pretty good at the MuRF. So once people are trained and they get in the swing of things, that's a big benefit. So the constant training is there. We keep people informed as to what kind of a job they're doing, if the material is meeting spec, if those specs do change, which happens in our world quite frequently. So that's key. Our supervisors are very much hands-on, so they're around on, and participating on the sort line, with our staff. So that's, again, that's a key. Open communication to let everybody know how things are going. We do a little bit of an incentive program with our staff, based on things like safety, attendance, and obviously quality. So they do have an incentive to make sure that the product that we produce at the end of the day is, of the highest quality possible. And it's not a huge incentive, but it's enough that it gives people that desire to achieve. And we do material audits ourselves, and our customers do it on a regular basis too. So a lot of times you'll see a couple of our staff on the floor of the MuRF plant doing just the opposite, tearing a bale apart and looking at what contaminants, prohibitives, or any other thing that might be in that bale, so we can correct it on the sort line and make sure that our customers are happy with what we get. So it goes back to, I guess, the real basic part here is we are very fortunate to have a high quality material entering the MuRF. So again, for all the reasons that Janine talked about earlier, and that ongoing communication between ourselves, the municipality or the city in this case, and and the residents, That's been a huge benefit. We were the incumbent operator when the MuRF first opened. We've been there since that, and hoping we can continue to be part of this in the future. So it's a very good program that way. Again, having the equipment, staff alignment that allows us to produce the highest quality potential that we potentially can. Again, our external customers have performed their audits, checked the residuals, and we've been rated with very, very low out throws and very desirable materials for their processes. Currently, we're dealing with both domestic and export markets, and I have in there except China at this point in time for the from the plastics. We're all quite aware of some of the import regulations that have been put in place in China, and we've I guess avoided, for lack of better words, attempting to put any material into that country specifically, but we are still going into a lot of other Asian countries, India and Europe, on top of some domestic markets for those products. Again, just a little bit of a breakdown. Domestically, a lot of the rigid plastics are staying domestic. We also have some of the film grades staying in the domestic market now too. There's some new opportunities on the East Coast with some plastic lumber producers and some plastics to fuel opportunities coming on board also. So we're very active in the marketplace, making sure we can find new homes, in innovative technologies, for those materials. Just as an aside, most of the fiber coming from the MuRF plant in St. John's is staying in the domestic market. As Janine mentioned, transportation is a definite negative in Newfoundland. There's no basically on island or in province processing. Everything has to be exported, using that term, exported off the island. So we work hard on the logistics piece. We've got some great relationships with some ocean freight and with some the road transport companies there to minimize that those costs too. Going into Asia, as we briefly said a minute ago, we are still shipping some film plastics along with some fiber into a number of countries in Asia. We've had some long-standing relationships with some producers there that have allowed us to continue. Actually, some of them have relocated their facilities from China into other countries close by, and we continue to move product to them on a regular basis. Again, we just as a point, fiber grades continue to go to China. Our quality, again, coming out of our facilities has met or exceeded any of the import requirements. So it's been very positive that way. So it's like I say, the challenges that we face again is simply on the quality and the changing material mixes that we've been allowed to use. I think as Janine mentioned earlier, we had been mixing our PET with and clamshells together. Those markets have changed, and as those requirements change, and we have to change the sorts at the MuRF plant to allow us to maximize revenues and continue to have good movement of product. So being aware of what those markets are and what the changes are is crucial to being able to move the product, and again for us to maximize the revenues back to the city. On the follow-up side, again, the scheduled meetings and the ad hoc as we need them communication is key to the relationship. It's been a great relationship over the years, and we're going to continue to push that forward. We've talked a lot about how we get those the numbers up, participation or just volume, but we don't want to jeopardize the quality of the material that's coming in to the MuRF. So things that the city are doing with their, with their new automated collection processes and stuff have been key. And we'll continue to do that and work with the city to that end. And again, keeping this, the city apprised of changes in the market, whether it's the good news or the bad news, prices up, prices down, markets going away or new markets coming online. So we really, again, focus on that high quality end product, which will allow our customers to continue to make their high end or high quality end products, keep their residuals low, keep their processes running effectively and efficiently. So again, it is a partnership. It's there is a contract in place, and there's things laid out in that contract, but for the successes we've had over the years, with the city of St. John's at the MuRF there, it definitely is a great partnership that we have, and that definitely is key. So I think that wraps it up for me.
Great, thank you so much, Dwight. Another really, really great presentation. Some excellent perspectives on your end, on your work and the partnership with St. John's. So thank you again for sharing that. And another thank you to Janine. I think you both have really given a great introduction to the benefits of these types of partnerships, especially for tackling a lot of the challenges that are surrounding the area of managing waste and plastic waste. So we do still have quite a bit of time for questions. We'll dive right into that, aiming to get through as many as possible, but we do have a lot of people on the line, so apologies if we're unable to address all of them, but we'll do our best to work our way through. So just to begin, we did have a couple people on the line just wanting some clarification questions on some of the terminology that was used. So Janine, in your presentation, you mentioned a residual rate and downgrading, and those were two terms that not everyone on the line might be familiar with. If you could just clarify.
Okay, the residual rate is what the contaminants that go into the MuRF that can't be recycled, so they end up going into the residual or the containers that material goes out and still gets landfilled. Okay, and the other question was downgrading of material. Was that no market, they're pleased, we get the price that they quoted to us, and when they're downgraded, it means there's too many contaminants in the product.
Okay, thank you. And the other question, just another clarification one, was what does MuRF actually stand for?
Materials Recovery Facility.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll dive into now some more questions specifically about municipalities, and I'll try to alternate between you and Dwight, just so that you guys have a little bit of a break in between. But Janine, for you, what would you recommend to enable a small town with limited resources and info to be able to implement something, successfully implement a program like yours?
I guess I would strongly recommend that you do a 2-bag program, because it is less expensive when you get your residents to do some of the sort for you. That's reduced some of the costs for us, and it also, I think, it encourages people to become more aware of the recycling and their own waste, and they're involved in it, and they become part of the team to make it a good program, and they begin to understand the success of the program is what comes in the MuRF, and they help provide that. Okay, so I would recommend a blue bag program myself, and the 2 sorts. I'm not sure what else I can say for reducing costs, but it's often recommended that if the resident can do more of the work, it just helps reduce the cost of sorting, and it's a cleaner and easier sort. And I would also keep those items that we keep out of the program, all the plastic bags. I just wouldn't include those, and your glass and your styrofoam. You'll have to find other ways to deal with that, but just to keep as much plastic, single-use plastic bags out. And like I said earlier, there's more plastic bags in the grocery stores today than there ever has been in the past. And the more plastic you get into your blue bags, it just makes the sorting far more complicated. I don't know if Dwight wants to add anything more to that.
Well, again, Jeanine, I agree with your comments. Foam plastic is difficult to get off the line quickly, and it does inhibit your sorting as you go down the line. And the two bag stream, I spent a number of years in the paper mill side of it also, and having the two streams, keeping a clean stream on the fiber, which also gives you a clean stream on the container side is critical, and as our industry has changed, more and more critical going forward. Just on another little side note there, one of the other things for a smaller municipal unit, and we've done that quite successfully in some other locations, is collaborating, collectively together. So where we have, 5 or 6 or 10 municipalities or municipal units going into one MuRF plant. The economies of scale, having a MuRF plant in each little location is very costly. But sometimes we've been able to, collect in an area and then transload and move it to another another town or another area, for the separation or the sorting and baling side of it, and that really, if you can, amass tons collectively, it will make a big difference from your cost on the recycling side or the sorting side.
Great, thank you to both of you for your thoughts on that. We also had quite a lot of questions relating to relationships with your citizens or people in the community, and particularly in terms of challenges in getting citizens to keep recycling uncontaminated. What would you say is the most common thing that people get wrong when it comes to recycling, and how do you address that?
For the City of St. John's, it's often glass, because we don't take glass, and other places take glass, and everybody knows that, and so they want to include it. And so glass would be the main culprit, and aerosol containers too. And so we have a very stringent rule with our collectors that if there's even one glass bottle in the blue bag, they are to leave the bag, as well as same for aerosol cans. And then there's a tag that goes on the bag, and it's stated that there was glass in the container, and they said you need more information to call 311. And our staff have even gone out and visited those people if it's a continuous problem, and spoken with them at the door. And people actually, they're just here to help you learn more, and appreciated the contact with the residents. So that's what we found, when you can, talk to the people directly, that's helpful. So between the collectors and our staff, it helps the program move forward. But today, the glass isn't as serious as it used to be, because when we first started, we did get glass, and then it has lessened and lessened and lessened.
Great. Dwight, did you want to add anything on that, or should I move to another question?
Just my only other comment would be, residents not cleaning containers completely. I'll pick on the famous peanut butter jar that's still half full, and that causes a real problem from a quality perspective, for us.
Okay, great. We also had some questions related to the clear bags and recycling containers. Dwight, for you, does the residual rate that you mentioned include the clear bags that are required in your system?
No, because we recycle the blue bag is recycled. So once that bag is opened on the sort line, we actually bale it in, and we have markets for those blue bags. Okay,
great.
So the residual rate is purely just non-recyclable material.
Okay, that's great. For Janine, then, why did St. John's decide to go with those plastic bags to keep recycling contained, rather than implementing some sort of blue bin with a lid?
Basically, there was, first of all, we wanted to be able to see in and control our contamination, because, again, in our forefront, of our decision making for the program was a clean product. And it was also going to be expensive to, provide blue bins for every resident. And so there's budgetary restrictions, but we saw a more positive way was to go with the blue bags to get that end quality product.
Okay, great. Another question for both of you, but I'll start with Janine. In our webinar last week, we discussed education and recycling programs, and you did touch on that in your presentation as well, the importance of educating your residents, and you brought that up as well here. What in particular have you done that's special that through your education program that's provided such positive results for your community?
One thing that's been positive for us was on our website. We did up a video of the journey of our recyclables, and it starts at the curb with the collection truck pulling up and putting the blue bags in the truck, and then it follows it and it goes all the way over into the MuRF, and follow the up the container line and the fiber line. And people that have watched that get because often people would say, well, how come I have to do 2 bags? And then the truck pulls up and you throw both bags in the truck. But once they see, we definitely pointed out that there's one side of the truck is for the containers and the other side is for the fibers. And that was really a positive. A lot of people, when they see that video, found it very, very helpful. And we also recently redesigned our website so it's much cleaner and easier to find, their schedules or all the information. But also another thing that we entered into a few years ago is with Recollect, and it's reminders for when their collection day is. And there's a waste app as well. And on the waste app, we've got anything you need to know about how to handle your waste properly is on that app. And also with the Recollect reminders and app, we can do campaigns. And so if we want to send a message to people, and we can pick certain areas, or we can do the whole city. And if there's a message you want to do about glass or about any other thing, about bags being commingled, it's a real positive thing, as well as we have put waste in its place. So if people want to know what, if an item can be recycled or how to handle that, or if it goes in the garbage or wherever, they can just do a search for that, and then it'll come up and tell them what they can do with it. So we've found those tools extremely helpful. I think we've got over 16,000 or 17,000 people that have signed up for these. So it's a great way to directly relate to your residents.
Okay, that's a great overview. Thank you, Janine. Now for Dwight, we had an interesting comment from somebody who mentioned that their community is starting to accumulate other types of plastics, such as those from automotives like car bumpers. Do you have any thoughts on what could be done with these kinds of items, or your more unconventional plastics that aren't part of everyday use?
There are markets for virtually everything out there. So it's just a matter of digging and finding a home. So there are repurpose or recycling companies that will take those type of plastic car bumpers and have a use for them. You just have to find them. That's all. Organizations like Canadian Plastics Industries Association, CPIA, they're usually a pretty good contact if you're looking for, again, those one-of type products.
Great, thank you. Another one for Janine. What recommendation do you have for municipalities that are dealing with plastics that they don't have a market for, like the plastic film, clamshell containers, and bags, that kind of thing?
And there's no market for them? I would probably go with what Dwight just said and contact the Canadian Plastic Association and ask them to help assist you in finding the market. Because there are markets, like Dwight said. I guess The downside is you may not get any revenue from them, but you could at least move them along.
For Dwight, how should you word contracts to hold vendors accountable for diversion?
Sorry, can you repeat, Yvonne? I'm sorry.
How should you word contracts to hold vendors accountable for diversion?
Well, I guess one of the ways we've done it, from a contractual perspective, and Janine can talk even more about this, is we have a scale on the processing fees in St. John's. So the more tonnage or volume that comes through the MuRF plant, then that the processing fee is altered accordingly. So that allows you to have a minimum, and as the tonnage or the volumes go up, then there's it's good for both parties at that point. There's positives. So I'm hoping that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, some are a little more challenging than others. That's okay. For Janine, another question sort of along the lines of the pay-as-you-throw system, and you mentioned that your system is voluntary, of course, but others want to know if there should be policies in place or to charge citizens for the amount of plastic they throw out. What is your thoughts on the pay-as-you-throw system?
I've never thought about that, but first of all, it's difficult maybe for your people, the resident, to control how much plastic, because as you know, and when you go to the grocery store, there's plastic. Everything's covered in plastic. So is it their responsibility to have to pay for that, or should it be somebody else's? And I don't know an awful lot about extended producer's responsibility, but that doesn't, if there was an option that you didn't have to use plastic and you chose plastic, then yeah, maybe you can charge them as pay as you throw. But because we don't have that many options when you go to the grocery store to prevent bringing plastic home, and there's an awful lot of plastic that isn't in any kind of recycling program. So so depending on if there's options to not have to bring plastic home, but I think that's very limited. So I wouldn't necessarily feel that they should pay for that.
Well, that's an excellent point. I think you addressed that pretty well. Following up on some of Dwight's comments earlier, we've had a few more questions come in about the cleanliness of containers and in order to avoid contamination. A lot of people aren't sure exactly how clean those containers need to be. So, is it something, a case with the peanut butter jar where it has to be washed completely thoroughly, or is a slight residue okay? And if so, how do you educate on the level of cleanliness that's required? Because I think that's one of the number one challenges right now in terms of whether or not something is actually accepted in recycling.
Great question. We encourage people to rinse out the container. So I guess I don't think the expectation is for you to run it through your dishwasher, but we want to make sure that the residual or the product in the container is at a minimum. Especially depending on markets, but anything going export, organics or food types is a huge issue for us. But even in the domestic market, that's a contaminant that the next level processor has to deal with, in their shop floor. So, again, rinsed would be, I guess, the best way I can describe it. A little bit of residue is not going to be a problem.
There was also a question in about if there's a directory available on the Canadian Plastic Association or elsewhere that might allow communities to see what markets are available for these products that we mentioned earlier. Do you know of any directory that's available?
Well, again, CPIA does have a listing. Again, it might be a members-only listing, and I'd have to check that. On their website of different companies that are buying or requiring different grades of plastics in Canada. So that's probably a great place to start. And I'm not trying to avoid the question again as to specifically where those markets are, but depending on the physical location of where where these communities are would depend on where a market might be for it. But that would be my first place to go and chat with them there. They're typically very very cooperative.
That's great. Thank you, Dwight. Back to Janine again. We've talked about, of course, the sources of plastic and whether or not everyone should be accountable for different uses or uses of plastic within their household products. But what initiatives do you know of that have been successful to reduce the use of plastic at the source rather than sort of end use?
I guess there's the education, buying in bulk would be one. I guess I'm hopeful that eventually we'll find more plastic items not plastic, but containers that maybe plastic used to come in. That I know there's a movement, and I think it was in your first series where there's more containers being made that can be composted in an industrial compost facility. So I guess it would be buying in bulk, and would be the best way to reduce some of the plastic, if that works for you.
Thanks, Janine. And if it's sorry for any curveball questions, but of course your
I wasn't
appreciated.
Yeah.
And a last one for Dwight. How are biodegradable plastics dealt with in terms of sorting separately, if at all, or dealt with?
It's a great question, and it's becoming more and more of an issue with the multi-laminates and biodegradables and plant-based and everything else. Currently, and I can say, and I can only speak, for our operations, we're not doing any separate sorting at this point. As a percentage of the total, it's very low, and our markets have not pushed back. But I do think it's going to be it's going to be a growing issue as we move forward. With some of these new technologies that that are coming to the market today.
Perfect, thank you. We are getting pretty close to wrapping up, so I did want to give you both an opportunity to, if you have any sort of key takeaways or recommendations that you would kind of want people who've listened into the webinar to take home with them today. If you want to share a final few thoughts right before we wrap up, that would be great.
I guess my final thought from this is, you prepare things and more things come to you, is I think it's useful to ask more from our residents to participate in the recycling programs, to make them feel like they're part of the team, that because they have to be responsible, the municipalities can't take it all on. And I think it's a long-term goal, but it's necessary. And the more they understand and realize the complications of things that are done incorrectly is beneficial to them as well as to the municipality. And so, we're all responsible. It's just not the municipality, but we're all responsible. So if we could move, that level of education, and the more that they have to physically do things, that education helps grow, rather than just talking about it. So that's what I would leave with everyone today.
Anything on your end there?
Well, I'll pick up. I agree, with Janine's comments completely. And then, from the operator of the MuRF providing the service, is again that open partnership and that open relationship with the municipality. We're never going to solve all the problems, they're not, but collectively and collaboratively, we have a good shot at trying to make them as best we can. From from the operations piece, knowing what your customer is looking for is key. and being adaptive to changing, your sorts and your mixes of product, for those different markets. They are changing. They're going to continue to change, and we just have to be, prepared to take on those challenges. So I really think that's, the key. The relationship is huge.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much to both of you. Thank you for taking the time to share your insights and your work with us. It is now 2:30, so we will be wrapping up. But again, we do really appreciate the expertise that you bring to the table in this discussion. Thank you to everybody on the line for your active engagement throughout, for your questions and your comments. The recording from today's webinar, including the audio and the video, will be available in a few weeks on our YouTube page, so please stay tuned for that. Before you sign off as well, we'd love to be able to hear from you and have your feedback as well, as we've been asking at the end of each webinar. So a survey should open up when you close out the webinar. This is your chance to let us know what would help you to better manage your plastic waste and integrate the circular economy into your community. So please take a moment to fill that out. And lastly, please join us again next week for our final webinar as we take a look at innovative technologies for tackling plastic waste. So with that, I'll say thank you all and have a great rest of your day, and take care.